questions? Yeah.
Now you've been waiting to bring a trophy back for quite a while. What's the feeling like?
You know, I think anytime you can bring a trophy back to any program, it's a big deal because championships are hard to win. I don't care if they're on neutral courts or you're talking about conference championships, obviously NCAA championship. Those are very difficult to do. So for this team right now, this early in the season, to call themselves champions, it's pretty special to see their reaction to it. I think it gives them a tremendous burst of confidence. And hopefully it'll give our students a burst of confidence to believe in them and come out and support them as well too, because what they have done has not been easy to do. We played 3 really, really good basketball teams, 3 different games, and we were able to adapt, adjust, and be able to do it. So it's a special moment for us for our program right now.
I know a lot of people are so surprised about this. Did you think this team was ready to go down there and pull something like that off and beat three good teams, like you said, 3 kind of prominent mid-major programs?
The thing about this team that I've said all along, it's a great shooting team, and it's the best shooting team that I've coached in practice. And with the numbers they put up and some of the things that we do to measure that, it's just mind-boggling to me how much better they are even than my Oregon teams in practice. And then all of a sudden we get the scrimmages and we get the exhibition games and those numbers are still there. Now we have to get the counting games. And the more this team starts to relax and play, they've had some incredible second halves at putting at numbers. They've gone on some incredible runs. So to say we were going to do this well, I certainly felt like we had the capabilities to play extremely well and play with any of these teams. You don't know how well until you get into the battle. And the adversity of the St. Joe's game and being able to come through that just made us stronger and more confident. We controlled the St. Mary's game, and we basically controlled the San Diego State game as well, too.
What game do you think they did the most growing up in? What was it, the St. Joe's during the 26-0 run?
It was probably the St. Mary's game because the St. Joe's game was kind of a duplicate of the Texas Southern game, but you did that here at home. And to do that on a neutral court of a team that went on a 26-0 run on you, you never felt the game was out of rhythm. People talked about all the time, you must be giving one heck of a halftime speech. Well, we don't give speeches, we make adjustments. And as coaches, we made adjustments. The team listened, they made the adjustments, and you could just feel the momentum in the game changing really literally every 5 minutes and knowing we could come back. But the St. Mary's game against a team, an opponent that's picked to win the West Coast Conference, Randy's been there 17 years, the amount of success they've had, 64 straight games they've won when they shot over 50%. We shoot 58 and win the game. That was an incredible win because that is a high-quality basketball program. Not that St. Joe's isn't, but the fact that he did it in day 2 against that caliber of opponent was pretty impressive.
And just things like pick and roll and your guys' half-court offense and defense when you guys didn't have to rely on the 1-3-1. You guys showed a lot of man and played strong defense. What's that say about a young team where they're growing up in those types of characteristics on the court?
I think, again, it's a really skilled team that can spread the floor. And the way we shoot the ball, we got 4 guys that are shooting 50% or more from the three-point line. And we're very difficult to guard, so that allows you to put the ball in the middle of the floor and run the pick and roll. But the biggest difference with this team is on the defensive end of the floor. When you talk about the 1-3-1 gimmicky defense that brought us back against Texas Southern, it brought us back against St. Joe's, but we were 95% man-to-man against St. Mary's. A team of that caliber, to be able to win a game with your man with a team this young, what you have to understand is that means you've got great growth potential because we're nowhere near where we're going to be come conference time and halfway through a conference season. So it's encouraging to see them playing this well and adapting to adjustments. For a young team right now, that's a good sign.
What's that say about your coaching staff as well for Ed and Benny on the fly for you guys to really take hold of the adjustment period and see your players buy in and turn it out in the second half?
Well, first of all, I think it says a lot about Coach Graham and Coach Dominguez, who are no longer with us, because those were 30-year veterans in terms of the X's and O's in coaching the game. And we put in a system that is really, really good and that this team has adapted to. Where Ed and Benny have come in, they've been excellent at what I call moving the needle with players. Their confidence, their courage, having them step up, being more accountable. So they've done their part in that area while at the same time having to learn this system because they don't really understand it yet because they haven't been around it enough. But the guy that has really made a big difference in all this, obviously Coach Allen early on and then Coach Tim early on, Marion, those guys were with us last year that do understand the system as well. So I'm pleased that I've got an excellent staff that have really done a good job of what I would call moving the needle with this group of guys.
Malachi kind of hits that dagger in the first game and then goes on to score 24, 26 and then really finds his shooting stroke. How important was that shot, do you think, for his psyche and his confidence? He kind of struggled with the shot early on and really kind of started to find it in Fullerton.
I think the tournament was very valuable for Malachi because he has struggled here at home in some games. It's like he was missing something. That passion, that drive, that it factor, as I call it, that he has in his game. All of a sudden now you're on a neutral court with some of the best talent in the country coming in, team from the Atlantic 10, St. Mary's with all of their hype sitting there, and he run into a San Diego team San Diego State has had so much success. It forced him to raise the intensity of his game, the focus, the passion, and sure enough, he took his game to another level. And when you're able to do that, now we see the Malachi that we were hoping to see starting this year. Now he needs to bring that intensity back home and do that same thing here. I think the students coming out will allow him to do that, but it really was the energy of the tournament, the hype of the tournament that forces guys to play at another level. We need that energy in our building for this team to play at another level because they certainly have it in them.
Did you tweak his 3-point stroke at all, or was it just a case of kind of shooting himself out of it?
The only thing I told him is that in practice, we shoot with a clock on him all the time, and we're always playing shooting games, so therefore that shot is up a lot quicker. And I felt like in our games here at home, he was so relaxed and such a calm at taking a shot, it almost threw his shot off because he was getting so wide open. The urgency of his shot is the thing that made the difference. And I think, again, when he knows that defense is going to close out on him quicker, when you got a better defender on you in these games we played, it forced him to get his shot off quicker, play harder, play tougher, and that was the tweaking that it needed.
And then how big was the bench? And I know last year you kind of struggled to get production. This year you saw Jeff kind of score 16, 11, Carter and Quentin had a pretty good game. Is that also kind of a big difference from last year's team? Is you can go to the bench and not just get breathers, but get scoring and production?
Huge difference than last year. And, you know, at times I contemplated why I redshirted so much last year with Lon Aquila, Renze Cheatham sitting there, Jamar Akers sitting there. But we needed to do that for their development and everything. Well, this year you've got, 12, 13, we've got 14 players on our roster, of which 13 of them are active to play. That gives you a really deep bench and with our bigs and our guards. So it's a nice luxury to know you can go to a bench and get a guy like Jeff Pollard who has back-to-back games of career highs. And know you can go to the bench and get a guy like Carter Skaggs that had at some one point in time made 10 straight three-pointers and is perfect from the free throw line. And you can go to the bench and he's shooting 56% from the three. And then you can get a Quentin Henson, 6'5", athletic, that can go. He really changed the game for us in the St. Mary's game with his athleticism. That's a nice luxury to have, and it makes you more of what I would call a complete team.
Did Jeff really take some time to refine his offensive game? He was a great defensive player last year, but it kind of feels like he's a lot better on the offensive end this year.
I think it's just the experience of being in the system, that year or two of being with us and having the freedom and the green light to shoot it. He's also an outstanding three-point shooter. People have not seen that piece of his game yet. So he's just getting into a comfort zone. And remember, again, here's somebody that went to prep school and played at a higher level out of high school, waiting to become a Coug. And then he played last year. So he's kind of in year 3 out of high school right now. And sure enough, here comes his confidence.